Abu Dhabi Doo. Welcome to Tennis in a Minute, guys. The World Tennis League. And this video is brought to you via the Doctrine of Fair Use, the Fair Dealing, and the Digital Millennium Act. We're going to take a look at tomorrow's championship match. But first, let's talk about little Simona. She's back, guys, and she has a wild card into the Australian Open. We're going to get to that in a minute, but first, the match she played against Elena Rybakina, the giant from Kazakhstan. Very entertaining match. Elena Rybakina would win the match, but listen, ladies and gentlemen, I thought Simona Halep looked pretty darn good. She's trying to get her mojo back. She got 77% of her first serves in play. I did think she struggled a little bit on the first serve, only winning 54%, losing 71% of her second serves. She had a breakpoint opportunity against Elena Rybakina, but Elena Rybakina, what concerns me is the rate at which she's getting her first serves in play. She hasn't been blasting a lot of aces. I don't know if the game plan, and this is just my fair criticism, this is my opinion, I don't know if the game plan going into next season is going to be, look, take it easy on the aces, take it easy on the body, the shoulder, and I kind of feel the same with Alicia Parks. If it's not there, then look, just focus on ball placement, set up your offense, and get ready to win a point. I think a lot of the fatigue, the injuries, it comes from these very aggressive, powerful first serves where you're going for aces. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of stamina. And we've seen the best servers over the years end up with injuries during these long, grueling seasons from blasting these rockets. So I think Elena Rybakina could possibly enter this upcoming season more health conscientious, just taking it easy on the shoulder. And like I said a couple of years ago, when she was just destroying the tour with aces, I said, I think her body's going to break down. There's no way she can keep up this high level performance, this high output rate of blasting aces and not get injured. Sure enough, she did. And we wish the best for all the ladies. And I think if that's going to be the game plan for this season, I think it's going to be a smart one. But just understand, if she's not blasting as many aces, upwards of 10 aces per match over the years, her first serve win percentage is probably going to drop, and we're seeing that right now. But let's focus on Simona Halep. Simona Halep, and that's Jasmine Paolini, a.k.a. Ciao Bella, a.k.a. Little Italy. Listen, let's talk about little Simona for a minute. She has a wild card now into the Australian Open. I say it all the time. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. Closed mouths don't get fed. You have to speak up. You have to talk. And she's been vocal. And the same with Caroline Wozniacki. Look, Caroline and her father said, look, they don't respect us when they were snubbed the wild card. Who was that? The French Open, I think, or was it Wimbledon? The French Open, I think, right? And in my personal opinion, I think Simona has a point, but again, we're talking about Iga again. I do think that all cases are different. I mean, Simona's case, we covered that right from the start. I do think they were not hesitant to release that story. I mean, literally, when she lost to Daria at the U.S. Open, that story came right out. And you can see Iga did get a little bit, in my opinion, and in a lot of others' opinions, a little bit of VIP treatment there. They held the story. They allowed her to play, resume the suspension. Simona, right from the gate, was like, boom, look, you tested positive. This is what it is. And I don't think they gave her the opportunity to really produce a thorough investigation before they ran to the media, where Iga, again, both ladies were proved to be innocent. And I just think they did rush a little bit. And Simona feels that way as well. She's been very vocal about that. But again, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And I do think that her being vocal, it helped, because she's been vocal about her standing. She's ranked 877th. She's going to have a wild card, but I think she's got to make it at least at around a 32. We're going to see. It's going to depend on her schedule, who she's matched up with. And they haven't been kind to her. She's been getting brutal schedules. She's talked about her body just getting back into the swing of things. And let's take a look at the Australian Open in terms of Simona Halep. listen, she made that 2018 final, and I just talked about Caroline Wozniacki, who they've been vocal as well about this wild card process. My personal opinion, I've said it in the past, I'm on record, I think the wild cards should really be for these upcoming players that are local to the event to have the opportunity to earn a good game check, to get their name out there, to do something in front of their home country. I do think these older veteran players that have the skills, that are talented, they have the resources enough to go in there and win qualifiers. They have to win these qualifying matches. If they aren't in a position to be in the main draw, they have to show that they can play and win. And the same with Venus Williams. I've been the same in terms of being vocal with Venus Williams. I do think that Venus Williams, at her age, this is probably going to have to be the year where she has to hang it up, because if you can't go out there and win qualifiers and make it into a Grand Slam or a 1,000, then you probably can't hang with the best in the world. I mean, let's just be honest. And I've been the same when it comes to Venus, Caroline, and even Simona. If you can't, and even Osaka, if you can't win these qualifying matches, you're not going to win the tournament, right? In my opinion. But in terms of Venus, she still has the star power. And then there's the business aspect where we factor in Emma Raducanu, how these amazing players have this star impact. They can generate revenue. And this is what I said with Emma Raducanu in the French Open. Look, they didn't give her the wild card, but listen, if Emma Raducanu, and again, a lot of that came with applying late, the same with Caroline Wozniacki. They thought they were a lock to get the wild card, so they really applied late for the tournament along those lines. And when they didn't get the wild card, it was kind of like, forget about qualifiers. So I do think, though, with the star power of players like Emma Raducanu, sometimes these marketing experts are thinking, look, let them go play qualifiers. It's going to generate a ton of revenue, right? Because I'm not sure if you guys have been to these tournaments. When it comes to qualifiers, no one's exactly going to these matches. You've put Emma Raducanu in a qualifying for a slam, which she's not going to have that problem this year. But last year at the French Open, per se, that's going to be sold out. You're going to have a lot more concession sales, ticket sales and all that other stuff, memorabilia and tennis balls and all shirts and hats and all that crazy stuff. She's going to drive revenue. So from the marketing aspect, sometimes you're not stubbing these players for wild cards because they don't want them in the tournament. It's because they possibly want to generate some revenue. That's just my personal opinion. And I personally thought if you have Emma Raducanu, which I thought if she did play the qualifiers at the French Open, I thought she would have made it into the main draw because she's that big time. She's that good. She's going to sell out the first 3 rounds of qualifiers. And not only that, she's getting paid. It's going to generate a ton of revenue. And then going into the first round, that's going to cause more excitement because she's in shape. She's playing good. She made the qualifying round. And of course, that's an if that did happen. And let's pivot to Venus Williams. At her age, again, she's still a big draw. Venus Williams made the Forbes top earning females list this past season. Yes, $12 million. Venus Williams is still a big draw. She's still making a ton of money. Look, Venus Williams made more money than most players on tour last year. Now, we all know Coco, $34 million. Iga Swiatek, $23 million. Venus, $12 million, and she played like 3 matches. Okay, I'm joking. But listen, Venus Williams is still a big draw. And we need these stars in the tournament. And look, this has been one of the few channels that consistently has brought you content over the years to push this sport forward. It's been my goal to push female sports forward. And thank you guys for all the love and support. And I've said it, we've done it in a classy way, right? Respecting these players, giving them their props, their flowers while they're winning and doing well, but also giving them fair criticism when they're not showing integrity and playing well. But this channel has been one of the few consistent channels out there that has constantly given you the positive feedback, the good energy, covering these matches when no one does but me, right? But back to Simona Halep. She's going to be playing in the Australian Open. She has her wild card. her best finish there is 2018 when Waz took her out in 3 sets, right? But overall, she's big time, right? We all know she won the SW19 championship in 2018 against Serena Williams, right? Or that was 2019, I'm sorry. And I remember that match loud and clear, very, very, very clear. And the reality here is I didn't watch the match. I was watching whatever sport I was at the time. I was doing something. But I'm like, Serena's going to win this. She's going to get the record. She's going to make history. But I remember turning to the TV and seeing Simona Halep come up to get the trophy at the ceremony. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Serena lost this? So Simona is big time. She beat the previous year. She beat Sloane Stephens at the Roland Garros after dropping the first set. She had to come back. She hasn't really done well in New York. I mean, she did make the semifinals in 2015, but she struggled in New York. So I would like to see her do much better when it comes to New York. But overall, at the Australian Open, 22, her last amazing season on tour. She made the round of 16. I mean, in 21, she made the quarterfinals. In 2020, she made the semifinals. 19, she made the round of 16 after that loss to Caroline Wozniacki. But she has had a stretch there at the Australian Open in 16 and 17 where she didn't get out of the first round. So we're going to see how she does. But let's pivot back to the championship match that's going to happen tomorrow. In case you're not familiar, I gave you the rundown of how this format works. In the championship match tomorrow, it's going to be the Falcons versus the Hawks. Now, Iga Swiatek, her team is out. Her team was Team Eagles. That was Stefanos, Iga, Shevchenko, and Paula Badosa. But Team Kites is also out. That's right, guys. Nick Kyrgios, Casper, and Polini, and Simona Halep. They are eliminated, but in case you missed the post-match interview here, Nick Kyrgios sung Casper happy birthday. Now, these two have had a history together. Remember, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, they played in Rome, and Nick threw the chair, and Casper called him a crazy idiot. These two have had a history. They've been rivals. Nick would get his revenge at the Indian Wells a few years later. Now, Nick is big time. We know he's big time. There's not many people that can sell out an exhibition match, right? Full, no standing room, just sold out. That's how big Nick is. He's a big time athlete. But he's talked about how the game, it's dark, right? Just when at some points he felt his only purpose was to win, and even winning didn't make him happy. And we've heard Naomi Osaka come out and say the same thing, which is why I'm just so thankful that Coco has such a strong family structure. When you guys see Coco's mom and her dad at her matches, that's a strong support system for all the other things that go on behind the scenes. It's really keeping her grounded, and I love that about Corey and Coco's mom. Very amazing. But Nick Kyrgios, guys, he would end up singing Casper happy birthday, and of course he had to switch to the Stevie Wonder version. So the championship's going to be played tomorrow. It's going to be between Team Falcons and Team Hawks. Now, I said personally, I do think Team Falcons and Team Hawks are those are the two best teams. Team Falcons consist of Rublev, Elena Rybakina, Denis Shapovalov, and Caroline Garcia, Bonjour comme allez-vous, while Team Hawks consists of Jordan Thompson, Arina Sabalenka, Nagal, and Mira Andreeva. Now, I want to take a look at the potential matchups for the championship because it's who has I think Sabalenka's team, which would be Team Hawks, they have the most points, so they're going to have the option to choose the lineup. If Arena plays Elena Rybakina, that's going to be interesting because Sabalenka owns that head-to-head 6-4. If we count the last time they played here a couple of days ago, it'd be 7-4, where Sabalenka just dominated. I mean, she held Elena Rybakina to literally less than 50% of her first and second serves. She's just dominated her. Although Rybakina has defeated Sabalenka 4 times, I do think at this stage of their careers, this mid-December, I think Sabalenka's in better form physically and mentally, and I think she wins that match. But if Sabalenka chooses Caroline Garcia, which I don't think she will. Remember, Caroline Garcia owns a head-to-head against Sabalenka, right? One of the few players on tour besides Iga. Coco owned the head-to-head 4-2. Now she owns it 5-4 because Sabalenka did tie it up. And that's how Coco's so amazing. She's only 20. And Coco, she's played Iga like, 12, 13 times. She's played Sabalenka like 7 times. Garcia like 6 times. Ons like 6 times. Pegula like 7 times. You know, the only one she hasn't really played in the top 10 is Elena Rybakina, just that one time when she beat her at San Diego a few years ago. But Caroline Garcia owns that head-to-head against Sabalenka 3-2. And the last time they played, I was there at the ATX, or technically not the ATX, but the Fort Worth Championship, the WTA Finals. And I told you Caroline Garcia would win that. Go look up that prediction video I gave you. Remember I used to do those amazing prediction videos? So Caroline Garcia won that match 3-2. Indoor hard, same situation. I would really look forward to seeing that match. But it could also be a couple other scenarios, guys. It could be Mira Andreeva versus Elena Rybakina, where Elena does own the head-to-head against Mira. They played in Beijing, but I think, and I covered that match. I had a prediction for that match. I told you Mira would win a set, which she did. But I do think right now that would be a lot more interesting because I felt Elena Rybakina took it easy against Mira in that first set. I think Mira's in better form. She might win that match, even though Rybakina owns the head-to-head. Or it could be possibly Mira versus Caroline Garcia. Now, those two have never played. I would probably take Garcia to win that. So we have a lot of good potential matchups that could happen for the championship. Of course, you know, it could be mixed doubles. It could be just females doubles. So the championship is tomorrow. Team Hawk versus Team Falcons. Who do you guys think is going to win? I think it's going to be very interesting. And we're going to talk Coco a little later. Again, Coco, the highest paid female athlete for the year. Also, Renee Stubbs, Serena's former Hall of Fame coach. She thinks that Coco is going to win the Australian Open. That's my pick as well. Lately, if you follow the channel, whenever Renee and I agree on something, it's been happening. I think Coco, look, she's going to play the United Cup. We're looking forward to that. That's going to be amazing. We have a lot to talk about, but I do miss the American version of the World Tennis Exhibition. Now, we did have tennis at the Garden. I know I didn't cover it. I wasn't really into it. I think we needed one more star on the female side of things to drive it. Of course, we had Pegula, who's big time. We had Emma Navarro, who's big time. On the male side of things, we had Carlos Alcaraz, who's always big time. We had Ben Shelton. I think the female side needed one more big draw. It was entertaining. I think we really possibly needed a big foe in there. We did have Taylor Fritz, but I do think, we needed one more big star. In my personal opinion, I do miss the American version of this, where we would have all the time Taylor Townsend, Venus Williams, we'd have Sloane Stephens, Danielle Collins, Sophia Kenin. I miss the American version of this tennis exhibition. But nonetheless, guys, get ready. Tomorrow, the championship match will be played. We are going to talk a lot more tennis. And also, I got some lower level ITF coaching that I want to show you guys. So we're going to talk about that later. That's right. They're allowing coaching. Now, Taylor Fritz, he's upset about it. He thinks it takes away the mystique of tennis, right? Not in these exact words. This is my spin on it. The Taylor Fritz feels he takes away from the problem solving, right? The players going out there and having to work their way through the match and figure it out. I'm on record in the past stating that I think that coaching should be allowed in the professionals, right? When you're a professional, you're making a lot of money. There's sponsors, there's endorsements. You pay for a coach to get you through these tough matches. Every professional sport, for the most part, has some type of coach that is paid, and their job is to make you or the team better. The ITF and the lower levels, I think coaching should be allowed because you're developing the player still, right? And I think there's an aspect there where Yes, it would benefit the player to problem solve, but a lot of times the disadvantage in the lower level is not only physical ability, the stronger, more aggressive players, the more advanced players, they make it out of the lower levels very fast because they're able to dominate players. Well, overall on the lower level, you see a lot more longer rallies because the players overall they're more evenly matched. There's normally a lack of power, so that causes a lot more longer rallies, a lot more shot making ability. And then you kind of have to problem solve your way through it. Whereas there could be coaching disadvantages where, again, depending on resources and money, again, the players with the better resources can have the better coaching that can get them through matches as well. But I do think at that level, as the players are still developing, coaching is a lot more vital. It's a lot more integral in just helping the players get through these situations. Where in the pros, they're making money, they're being paid, especially on the big stage. I think coaching should be allowed. And we've seen in the past, I've covered matches where, look, they have the camera right on the coach talking with the microphone mic'd up, and you're hearing what they're suggesting. I think that's cool. It helps the fans and even the casual fans, the super fans as well, learn the sport better, understand what the players are doing in case they can't figure it out, like myself or someone else. And I just think that's an aspect we want to hear. We want to get into these minds and these expert opinions of these coaches. And so I have some ITF coaching where I'm going to break down what the coach is telling the player and how to improve. And I just think it's super duper cool. But happy birthday to Casper, as Nick Kyrgios sings happy birthday. I'm your host, Good Energy. Tennis in a Minute. We're getting ready for the new season. This is going to be amazing, guys. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Like the video, show some love, hit the super thanks, and we'll be right back. That is the cake for Casper. Happy birthday.